Would you follow a stray dog into the unknown if it promised answers to your past? Share your thoughts on taking a leap of faith. The cold morning light filtered weakly through the dense canopy of leaves, casting mottled shadows across the weathered porch of Henry's small rural home. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying foliage, mingling with a lingering chill that seemed to seep into bone and soul alike. Henry sat slumped in his worn rocking chair, his fingers clutched tightly around an old, battered telephone, the receiver pressed against his ear as a faint ringing wailed in the quiet house. "Hello?" Only silence answered him, vacant, endless. A sinking weight settled deep in Henry's chest. His eyes, clouded with years and sorrow, searched the phone like it might suddenly burst to life. The ringing ceased. He exhaled, a breath trembling with decades of loneliness, bruised pride, and fractured hope. His gaze drifted to the cracked windowpane, water droplets tracing lazy rivulets down the glass. Outside, the woods stretched dark and silent, their ancient silence heavier than the walls of the empty house. Tears pricked at Henry's eyes, blurring the weathered landscape into a watery smear of greens and browns, colors of a life slowly fading away. But beneath the ache, an ember flickered, a stubborn will, fragile but unextinguished. He whispered into the quiet, a bare thread of voice, "Happy birthday, kids." The room swallowed the words, the only response the ticking of a clock somewhere deep within the walls, marking a time that seemed fractured and frozen. Henry's fingers loosened their grip on the receiver. He leaned back, closing his eyes as tears escaped, tracing silent furrows down his cheeks and mingling with the gray stubble of his silver beard. The sound of his breathing filled the spacious, trembling pulse amid the stillness. The porch creaked softly beneath the weight of the empty air. A gust stirred the leaves, wailing like a distant lament, then died away, leaving silence once more. With great effort, Henry stood, his knees protesting as he shuffled slowly into the dim interior. His fingers fumbled at a folded letter resting on the small table. It was yellowed, brittle, a relic from a time when hope was still possible. As he read, the camera panned slowly past a dusty pocket watch sitting on the mantel, relic untended, the delicate hands frozen over a moment lost. The fading light caught the watch's face, casting a fragile glow, the only sign of time remembered in a house filled with the ghosts of absence and yearning. Outside, beneath the heavy branches of the woods, a soft whimper started, faint but insistent, a sound that would soon break the suffocating stillness. The scene held on Henry's weathered face, eyes reflecting both immense loss and the unspoken stirring of a new dawn, an ember of hope flickering in the cold, rustic shadows. The quiet became absolute, a breath held, a moment poised on the edge of the unknown. The door groaned on tired hinges as Henry stepped back inside, each labored footfall heavy against the worn wood of the floorboards. The fading light of early evening seeped thinly through the small windows, casting long shadows that stretched into the corners like silent witnesses to his solitude. A cold that had nothing to do with the autumn air settled into his bones, a specter draped around his shoulders tighter than any coat. He moved to the kitchen, where the dim overhead bulb flickered uncertainly, fumbling with the creaky faucet to run a small stream of water. His hands, gnarled and veined from years of hard labor and quiet suffering, trembled slightly as he cupped them beneath the stream, letting it run through his fingers before the cold ceased to comfort. The house felt too empty, too wide, as though the walls themselves resented the absence of life and laughter. Pictures hung crookedly on the faded wallpaper, images of family celebrations long past, smiles frozen in sepia tones, echoes of voices Henry had desperately tried to retain in his mind. His eyes lingered on a photograph of his late wife, her delicate smile a fragile beacon in the dim room. The green scarf she once gave him, still folded neatly on the counter, called silently to something softer inside, an ember dim but refusing to die. A sudden movement caught Henry's attention. Through the cracked door, just beyond the garden, a shadow stirred. At first, he thought it was the wind playing tricks with the branches until a pair of keen eyes, golden and alert, met his. A stray dog, its coat a patchwork of scars and grime, lingered at the boundary of his yard. The dog's gaze was steady, unwavering, a silent challenge, a fragile invitation. Henry's lips pressed into a thin, reluctant line as annoyance mingled with curious hesitation. "Shoo! You devil!" he muttered under his breath, waving a shaky hand. Yet the dog did not move. The soft crunch of leaves on gravel sounded again, and Henry found himself stepping onto the porch, drawn inexplicably toward the loner. There was something in those eyes, an unspoken understanding of pain, loss, and yearning that mirrored his own. He hesitated, then reached slowly with a hand weathered by time. The dog recoiled, wary but not frightened, as if testing the man's intentions. A soft whine escaped its throat, blending with the whisper of the wind that stirred the golden leaves. Henry's chest tightened. The bitterness, the anger, the ache of rejection pressed on him relentlessly, yet beneath it all, a faint glimmer of connection stirred, fragile, unformed, but undeniable. A spark that whispered of possibility amidst the aching void. The sky deepened to cool twilight as Henry took a tentative step forward. The dog, barred and wary, met him halfway, their eyes locked in silent accord. The moment stretched, suspended between fear and hope, as if the two lost souls found in each other the first flicker of salvation. Behind them, the woods stood vast and mysterious, whispers of secrets tangled among the branches. The air hung thick, heavy with unspoken promise. Henry swallowed hard, the weight of loneliness pressing down even as a quiet pulse of courage stirred within. With a slow, deliberate breath, he reached out again. This time the dog did not step back. As darkness settled over the village, and the first stars glimmered overhead, the pairman and dog stood together, poised on the edge of a journey neither could yet understand, but both would walk. The camera held steady on the pair silhouetted against the rising moon, a vignette of fragile companionship, the quiet beginning of healing whispered beneath the vast, whispering woods. The chill of evening seeped deeper into the air, swallowing the golden hues of late autumn, leaving the world muted beneath the settling dusk. Henry stood on the worn wooden steps of his porch, the fading light tracing the lines of his weathered face and the solemn silver of his beard. The green scarf his late wife had knitted, now faded and frayed, looped loosely about his neck, a fragile remnant of warmth and memory. The stray dog lingered at the edge of the yard, eyes fixed on Henry with quiet insistence. For hours, the creature had watched from the shadows, a silent sentinel whispering of forgotten paths. Henry's irritation battled with an inexplicable curiosity that tugged gently at the corners of his mind. He shifted his weight and looked directly at the animal, who met his gaze unwaveringly, the flicker of loyalty flickering in its eyes. A sudden gust stirred the brittle leaves, sending a cascade that danced around Henry's worn boots like restless spirits. The woods beyond sighed a breath carried on the wind beckoning. The dog took a tentative step forward, then another, until a peculiar energy hummed in the space between them. Henry's rough hand moved to the pocket watch nestled deep within his coat pocket, the cold metal grounding him amidst the swell of emotion swelling inside. The watch, a relic passed through generations, ticked softly, a heartbeat bridging lost time and lingering legacy. It called to him, not as a chain binding to the past, but as a compass pointing toward something waiting to be found. Compelled beyond reason, Henry followed the dog into the woods, the canopy swallowing the last remnants of daylight, the crunch of leaves beneath foot mingling with his quickening breath. The dog moved with quiet purpose, pausing abruptly before a moss-covered stone strangely engraved with symbols half forgotten by time and memory. The air grew dense, the temperature dropping as shadows deepened into something more profound, insistent, a secret long dormant now stirring awake. Henry leaned closer, the intricate carvings whispering echoes of a story buried deep within the soil, intertwined with the roots of his own lineage. A moment passed silent, electric before Henry's gaze lifted, meeting the dog's steady eyes. In that shared space, the ache of loneliness softened, replaced by the flicker of a purpose not yet understood but undeniably real. The weight of years and pain did not vanish, but a fragile hope kindled in the cold evening air. As twilight faded into night, the woods seemed to hum with possibility. Henry's footsteps grew surer, his heart beating in rhythm with the ancient pulse of the earth around him. The stray dog, no longer just a watcher but a guide, nudged him gently onward. The camera pulled back, the tableau framed against a canvas of star-strewn sky and whispering Teresa man reborn amidst the quiet mystery of the woods, a beginning sparked by loyal companionship and the timeless call of discovery. The scene settled into silence, a breath held beneath shifting shadows, a whispered promise that the journey had only just begun. Dawn broke with muted gray light spilling softly over the quiet woodland that bordered Henry's weathered home. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, the undertow of autumn slowly yielding to the promise of winter's frost. Henry, wrapped in his familiar flannel shirt and worn jeans, stepped out onto the porch, his breath visible in the chilly morning air. The stray dog was already waiting, its silent gaze fixed unwaveringly as if guarding a fragile thread of new hope. There was a tentative rhythm to Henry's footsteps as he followed the dog down the worn path into the woods, leaves crunching underfoot in a tapestry of ochres and russets. The woods loomed with ancient stillness, a cathedral of whispering branches and hidden shadows, each step both a surrender and an act of defiance against the loneliness tightening its grip. The dog's movements were assured, its paws deftly navigating the tangled roots and scattered stones. Every so often, it would glance back, meeting Henry's eyes, a silent tether forged in shared vulnerability and unspoken trust. Henry's heart fluttered with a hesitant warmth, the first spark amid the smoldering ashes of his solitude. They arrived at the base of an old tree, gnarled and wide, its bark etched with strange markings, symbols half forgotten, half remembered. The dog pawed gently at the earth near the root, unearthing a small, weathered metal box encrusted with soil and time. Henry knelt carefully, fingers trembling as he brushed away the dirt to reveal the tarnished surface, an emblem faintly visible on its lid. Inside the box, wrapped in a faded cloth, lay artifacts from his family's pasta battered leather-bound journal, a delicate silver locket, and fragments of letters yellowed with age. Henry's fingers traced the worn leather as a breeze whispered uneasily through the branches. The weight of history pressed upon him, but so did a fragile resolve awakening from deep within. His voice cracked as he turned pages, absorbing the cryptic entries and half-spooled tales of hardship, resilience, and fractured bonds. Each word was a small victory, secrets unraveled, shadows peeled away, a path illuminated by arduous steps. Yet, beneath the hope, a dull ache lingered, a cautionary murmur that not all truth arrived without cost. As the sun struggled through thinning clouds, the dog's keen eyes caught a sudden movement near a dense thicket. Henry's breath hitched, senses sharpening. A slip of paper fluttered to the ground from an unseen crevice. He picked it up carefully, the fragile script a letter hinting at betrayal, concealed motives lurking within the family's history. His hands closed around the note, an icy tremor coursing through him. The promise of discovery was now shadowed by doubt. The fragile foundations of trust trembled under the weight of suspicion and unspoken wounds. Silence wrapped the woods as Henry looked upward, the skeletal trees swaying against the steel-gray sky. Whispered questions hung heavy in the air. Can he uncover the truth without losing himself? Will the past betray him before he finds redemption? The dog moved closer, resting its head gently on Henry's knee, a steadfast anchor in the rising storm of uncertainty. Camera pans away, fading to the rustling canopy where leaves tremble in the cold morning wind, an unseen journey poised on the edge of revelation and peril. The story holds in quiet suspense, the fragile bond between man and dog illuminated by the pale dawn, a poignant testament to first steps taken on the arduous road to healing and truth. The woods around Henry grew colder and more silent after the first light faded, the sun dipping behind the dense canopy that held the autumn colors in a slow decay. Henry's breath came in puffs, small clouds mingling with the mist curling at his feet as he followed the stray dog deeper into the fading forest. The dog led without hesitation, its movements purposeful, as though it carried a message hidden within the tangled roots and fallen leaves. Henry's eyes, tired yet sharp with newfound determination, searched the underbrush beside them. Every rustle of leaves or snapped twig pulled at his frayed nerves echoes of years filled with loneliness and whispers of past regrets. Yet here in the solitude of the woods, accompanied by the patient presence of the dog, a fragile quiet had taken root within him. Days of wandering yielded small, tangible proofs of history. A rusted horseshoe nearly buried in dirt, shards of glass etched with faint patterns, odds and ends from forgotten livelihoods long gone. Each find rekindled a spark against the ever-darkening shadows within Henry's heart. These relics were threads leading back to his ancestors, their stories woven into the soil beneath his feet. But with each discovery came a tide of doubt. In a brittle letter found sealed beneath a broken floorboard, Henry uncovered hints of betrayal, of fracture in the family legacy that gnawed at the foundation of everything he believed. The words, misleading at first glance, spoke of alliances shattered and trust stolen, shaking his faith in those who came before and the family ties he held dear. One evening, as a cold mist thickened around their retreat, Henry sat by the dying embers of a fire, the dog curled faithfully at his feet. His hand held the letter, the fading ink a stark reminder of secrets better left concealed, or so it seemed. His voice was rough and low in the chill, a vow both desperate and resolute. "We have to know the whole story." The dog looked up, eyes reflecting the flickering flames, and Henry found solace in the gaze, unwavering loyalty in the face of uncertainty. Yet, the growing chill outside seeped inward, as though nature itself responded to the unraveling tension. In the days that followed, Henry's exploration grew more urgent, driven by the twin forces of hope and apprehension. The woods seemed to whisper warnings through the rustling leaves and distant calls of unseen birds. The weight of the newly uncovered letter bore down upon him, mingling with the ache in his chest, a harsh reminder of how fragile trust truly was. At times, Henry's memories surfaced unbidden: his late wife's laugh, the warmth of their shared home, fragments of happier days, that warmth clashing with the cold, sharp edges of solitude. The dog's steady presence became his anchor, a living symbol of companionship pushing back against the creeping shadows threatening to swallow him whole. One afternoon, thick storm clouds gathered overhead, crashing thunder rolling like the distant roar of an ancient giant awakening. Lightning fractured the sky, illuminating the dense undergrowth as rain began to fall, fast and unforgiving. The dog acted quickly, nudging Henry toward a barely visible path veiled beneath the swelling branches. With heart pounding, Henry followed through the tempest, the ground slippery beneath his boots, muscles burning with exertion. Ahead, partially hidden among moss and fallen logs, he spotted the remnants of what looked like a worn stone foundation's hards of glass and rusted nails hinting at long-lost shelter. But as thunder cracked and rain hammered the leaves, an intangible dread took hold. The fragile hope he clung to was now entangled with a deeper complexity. Each truth discovered seemed entwined with pain, each step forward shadowed by the possibility of loss. Henry's breath was ragged as he crouched among the ruins, fingers brushing the damp earth. The dog pressed close, body warm against the biting cold. Around them, the forest pulsed with a renewed tension, the storm a relentless symphony of nature's fury and human vulnerability. The camera closed in on Henry's face, sweat and rain mingling as his eyes reflected the storm's chaos and the quiet determination that refused to be extinguished. The heirloom pocket watch, hidden beneath his coat, ticked steadily, an unwavering heartbeat amid the tempest. The scene ended lingering on a sudden flash of lightning that illuminated strange markings etched faintly into a nearby stone, enigmatic symbols that whispered of secrets yet uncovered a tantalizing invitation and a foreboding challenge. Henry's gaze fixed on the carvings, a spark of recognition and question flickering. Somewhere deep inside, He knew the journey was far from over and the answers he sought might demand sacrifices greater than he had imagined. The storm worsened as Henry followed the dog deeper into the woods. The sky, a churning mass of dark clouds, unleashed cold sheets of rain that battered the dense forest canopy, sending torrents down onto the leaf-laden floor. Twisting wind screamed through the branches, leaves and debris swirling like frenzied spirits wrestling beneath the gray sky. Henry's coat, soaked and heavy, clung to his tired frame as he struggled to keep pace with the determined animal. Branch and root conspired against him, slick with mud and treacherous from the relentless rain. Still, the dog pressed onward with unwavering resolve, its eyes bright lanterns in the dark, guiding Henry through the labyrinth of shadows. Suddenly, the dog halted abruptly before a narrow, almost obscured path veiled by ivy and fallen wood. Henry's heart pounded, a mix of apprehension and an old, unspoken hope swelling in his chest. He pushed aside the loosened branches and stepped forward, revealing the gnarled remnants of an ancestral cabin, all that remained a crumbling stone hearth and fragments of weathered timber half buried beneath moss and earth. The discovery hit Henry with the full force of memory and loss. This was not just a ruin of wood and stone, it was a tangible relic of his family's past, a place saturated with forgotten stories, belonging, and silent sacrifices. Yet, as the winds howled and rain lashed at his face, the fragile victory felt overshadowed by an ominous sense of fragility. The cabin whispered of endurance but also of devastating loss. Down the hill, water began to rush, a swelling, furious flood unleashed by the storm. Henry's pulse quickened. The shore threatened to spill its fury upward, threatening to erase what little remained of this sacred place. With a heavy heart and pounding legs, he watched helplessly as the waters tore into the earth, sweeping away the remnants of the cabin, swallowing family artifacts, and destroying the fragile trail of hope he had begun to build. The dog barked urgently, but Henry sank to his knees, rain soaking his face, tears indistinguishable from the storm. Between the roar of the floodwaters and the shuddering trees, the weight of loss was devastating, a physical ache in his chest matched only by the hollow sound of memories vanishing beneath the rising water. Exhausted, he stumbled toward a weathered oak, collapsing beneath its sprawling limbs. The dog lay beside him, its warm body a fortress of quiet comfort amid the chaos. Henry's fingers toyed with the frayed edges of his coat, the faint glint of the old pocket watch catching the last light, a silent, enduring beacon amid the ruin. In the crushing silence that followed, Henry's raw breath mingled with the sounds of the storm slowly abating. His whispered voice, strained yet resolute, pierced the fog. "We can't give up now. There's more, there has to be more." The dog nudged his hand gently, lifetimes of loyalty shining in its steady gaze. And beneath them, nestled in the moist earth partially revealed by the receding floodwaters, Henry's eyes caught the glint of something metal, an ancient root-bound pocket watch, surprisingly intact. Slowly, with trembling hands, Henry reached into the earth and lifted the time-worn relic. The pulse of his own heartbeat seemed to sync with the soft, rhythmic ticking emanating from the recovered watch, a resonant signature of past and future entwined. The camera lingered on Henry's tired but determined face, the seed of transformation taking root amidst the wreckage of hope and legacy, a turning point poised to reshape destiny. Above, the clouds parted, permitting a single, fragile ray of sunlight to pierce the gray sky, illuminating the reclaimed treasure and the path ahead. Henry's voice broke the stillness once more, charged with newfound resolve. "This is just the beginning." The scene faded on the quiet solidarity between man and dog, bonded in a sacred quest beneath an awakening sky, one foot steadied firmly into the future, the other anchored in a past written and waiting to be revealed. The floodwaters came with a sudden roar in the dead silence of the overcast morning, a tidal wave surging through the woods, swallowing roots and saplings, tearing at the fragile earth like a beast desperate to erase all memory. Henry scrambled to the edge of the ancestral cabin's ruins, rain slashing his weathered face and soaking the earth beneath his boots. The dog, fearless and frantic, bounded alongside him, its eyes gleaming with relentless insistence amid the chaos. The remnants of the cabin, once a place of warmth and stories, now crumbled into the merciless current. Fragments of timber and shattered relics floated past, the echoes of a family's past washed away in the flood's cruel embrace. Henry's heart shattered with the debris. Every piece lost seemed a whisper of yesterday slipping beyond his grasp, a final severing from what little he had resurrected. His breath hitched, the cold biting through ragged layers but unable to pierce the aching stillness settling in his chest. The familiar tick of his old pocket watch hidden deep within the folds of his coat felt distant, its steady rhythm drowned beneath the relentless tumult. A profound emptiness unfolded within him, mirroring the ravaged landscape before his tear-glazed eyes. Sinking to his knees beside a twisted tree adorned with moss and peeling bark, Henry pressed his palm against the soaked earth. Above, the storm's fury began to wane. Clouds dragged heavy limbs across the sky, dimming the world to washed-out grays and blues. Around them, the woods seemed to hold its breath, the only sound the slow drip of water from saturated leaves. He reached out, his fingers meeting the coarse fur of the dog who rested quietly by his side, a steadfast companion in the growing void. Henry's voice was barely more than a rasp, swallowed quickly by the vast silence. "I miss you," he whispered, the words a fragile prayer cast into the vastness, directed both towards his lost wife and the fading legacy surrendered to the flood. The dog nuzzled closer, its warmth a fragile tether amid the desolation, offering quiet comfort where human voices were absent. The crushing weight of loss pressed down in layers, fragile threads of hope severed, connection fraying, identity unraveling before the cold, unyielding truth. For a long while, Henry remained there, eyes closed against the downpour, surrendering to the suffocating grief. Yet beneath the weight, a faint pulse stirred, a whisper of resolve veiled in loyalty's embrace. The camera lingered on the ruined cabin, the swollen creek quietly reclaiming its bed, before shifting back to Henry's bowed figure alone, broken, but not undone, clutching the dog as the sky slowly lightened, hinting at the faintest light beyond the storm. The pocket watch gleamed faintly in the damp soil nearby, its hands glinting with Parmesan and spoken reminder that even in devastation, time endured, and with it, the possibility of renewal. The forest wore a chill more biting than the wind as Henry slumped against the rough bark of an ancient oak, its twisted roots gnarled around the earth like fingers clutching secrets too old to unravel. The flood's destruction lay around him, a chaotic graveyard of splintered timbers and scattered fragments of a life he'd barely begun to piece together. The dog lay close, a small warm island in the vast expanse of cold defeat. The sky above, a muted expanse of dreary gray, wept soft droplets that fell in slow, mournful pulses, each a tiny lament. Mist curled low, the woods engulfed in a damp silence so dense it swallowed sound whole, no birdsong, no wind's whisper, only the quiet breath of nature mourning alongside him. Henry's fingers, trembling and raw, clutched the damp fabric of his coat, seeking warmth that wasn't there. His eyes, reflecting the darkened canopy, shone with the weight of an ache too deep for words. Time seemed to fracture, seconds stretching into endless voids where hope dissolved into endless shadow. The only noise was the faint, irregular ticking of the old pocket watch nestled against his chest, a mechanical heartbeat barely audible amid crushing isolation. Its fractured glass reflected the sparse light, shards of memory shattered across its face, the hands frozen at a time lost, suspended forever in a moment of despair. His breath came in shallow wisps, merging with the fog in a ghostly dance, each exhale a quiet surrender to the barren solitude around him. The warmth he once carried, embodied in laughter and love years gone, had faded to a cold, unyielding absence. The dog lifted its head slowly, amber eyes meeting Henry's, a silent pledge of companionship whispered across the distance between despair and faintest hope. Yet, even this steadfast loyalty was a fragile thread in the dark tapestry stretching before him. Henry's voice broke the silence, a ghostly murmur just beyond the breath's edge, "Gone. all gone. The heavy woods seemed to close in, pressing an almost physical weight upon his soul. Each shadow stretched longer, colors dimmed to muted hues, the once vibrant autumnal golds faded to stark grays. The damp earth beneath him absorbed any lingering trace of warmth, the cold pressing relentless. His eyes fell on a lone, fallen leaf clinging to a root nearby, withered and brown, a poignant emblem of endings. It trembled in the faint breeze, then let go, fluttering loosely to the ground like a fading sigh. The scene held on Henry's broken silhouette, isolated and diminished against the vast expanse of nature's quiet judgment. The camera lingered, the distant howl of the wind threading through the skeletal treeson elegy for lost time and fractured legacies. Henry closed his eyes, the final embers of resistance flickering dimly. The world contracted to the cold soil, the silent breath, the heavy tick of the watch, the fragile crossroads where hope and desolation entwined. The frame slowly faded to black, swallowed by the quiet, as if the woods themselves exhaled a slow, heavy sorrow, leaving Henry suspended in the stillness between yielding and fight. The woods had fallen into an eerie silence as twilight deepened into the cold fingers of night. Henry lay slumped against the roots of an ancient oak, the damp earth pressing up through the knees of his faded jeans, the soft rustle of leaves beneath the first cold breaths of winter whispering secrets lost to time. His silver beard was flecked with mud, and the once vibrant warmth in his eyes had dimmed to a flicker, as fragile as the final embers of a dying fire. The dog lay close, its presence the sole warmth in the freezing, desolate landscape. Henry's chest heaved unevenly with the weight of grief and exhaustion, a steady rhythm matched only by the faint, relentless ticking emanating from the soil at his side. He reached with trembling fingers beneath the tangle of roots and moist leaves, drawing out an old pocket watch, a curious relic, bound by thick, knotted roots, but remarkably intact. The watch's face was tarnished, its glass smeared with earth, yet the delicate hands moved in confusing defiance of the ruin around it. As Henry cradled it gently, the subtle ticking seemed to echo through the hollow woods, a heartbeat defying the surrounding decay and despair. The ancient timepiece vibrated with the weight of memories and legacy, a symbol of lost time and hope struggling to be reclaimed. His memory lanced sharp. A summer morning long ago, light spilling golden across his wife's gentle smile, the warmth in her eyes reflecting in his own. A moment impossible to hold but impossible to forget. The green scarf she had woven, now threadbare, wrapped around his neck like a silent embrace. That memory, small and vivid, illuminated the shadowed corners of his heart. A soft rustle stirred the branches above, and the dog lifted its head, ears pricked in silent alertness. Henry looked up, the cold stars wheeling slowly overhead. The woods held their breath, suspended between the past and an uncertain future. "Maybe," Henry said softly, voice cracked but filled with a fragile cadence, "maybe there's still something left to find." The dog's quiet whine was a hopeful answer, a tether pulling him from the abyss. Henry clasped the pocket watch tighter, a fragile promise against the dark. As the moon painted silver trails across the forest floor, Henry rose slowly, the first flicker of purpose steadying his weary limbs. The earth beneath whispered ancient songs, and the woods seemed to breathe again, alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. The camera held on Henry's solitary figure stepping forward, framed by moonlight and mist, a man poised at the threshold of renewal. The scene faded with the soft cadence of the watch's ticking, a heartbeat heralding the fragile dawn ahead. The first light of dawn seeped softly over the dense woods surrounding the village, revealing a subtle shift in the landscape's tone. Shadows receded, replaced by a gentle amber glow that danced across the ancient trees and moss-covered stones. Henry, dressed in his worn flannel shirt and faded jeans, sat on a fallen log at the edge of the clearing, his weathered face quiet in a moment of fragile hope. His gaze drifted across the tangle of roots and leaf litter, a silent witness to the years of longing, loss, and the slowly awakening possibility of healing. The dog sat at his side, tongue lolling, eyes attentive yet peaceful. The eerie silence of the woods was broken only by the faint, rhythmic ticking of the old pocket watch Henry clutched tightly in his hand, a relic that had seen generations of hardship and now held the promise of a new beginning. Henry's eyes reflected a stirring awareness, an ember of resolve burning brighter amid the shadows of despair. A deep breath seeped into his lungs, the cool air lingering like a blessing, awakening his senses to the faintest signs of life. The woods, once cloaked in stark austerity, now shimmered with the soft promise of renewal. The golden hues cast a tender glow on the roughened bark and tangled veins, symbolic of the first fragile steps toward forgiveness and understanding. He gently pried open his fingers, revealing the watch face caught in the morning's light. The delicate hands, frozen at a moment long past, seemed to pulse faintly, alive with the faint heartbeat of hope. His mind echoed with memories, his wife's gentle smile, his children's distant voices, and a poignant realization blossomed. Perhaps this was the moment to reconcile with the past, to acknowledge the pain and forge a path forward. Tears welled, not of despair but of cautious optimism, as Henry traced the worn edges of the relic, an heirloom passed down as a testament to family sacrifice and resilience. The silent woods seemed to echo the unspoken possibility that even shattered legacies could be mended, that hope, no matter how faint, endured beneath layers of loss. A subtle wind stirred, brushing softly against his face, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and the distant promise of rain. For a moment, time felt suspended, the stillness a canvas awaiting the brushstrokes of healing. Henry's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the dawnlight shimmered like a gentle promise, an invitation to begin again. He took a steadying breath, feeling the weight of years lift ever so slightly, the fragile light of hope flickering anew within the shadows of his heart. The woods, the leaf-strewn path, and the relic in his hand all whispered quietly of renewal, an awakening that was but beginning, yet undeniable in its potential. The scene faded to a lingering shot of Henry's determined yet tentative pose, surrounded by the whispering woods and morning's golden glow, a silent testament that even the deepest despair could quietly give way to the promise of renewal. The once quiet woods echoed with a renewed vitality as dawn cracked the horizon, spilling a warm amber glow over the leaf-strewn ground. Henry moved through the tangled underbrush with purposeful stride, the weathered leather of his coat fluttering in the brisk morning breeze. The dog trotted beside him, alert and steady, as if sharing a quiet understanding that this day marked a turning point. The air was brisk, carrying the scent of damp earth and lingering fog, which was beginning to lift, revealing patches of frost-kissed grass and tree trunks scarred by years of storms. Henry's breath rose in silvery clouds among the crisp silence, his eyes focused on a faint, carved symbol on a moss-covered stone, something he'd seen only in flickers of dreams and half-remembered stories. Gently, he brushed away the moss with trembling fingers, revealing a delicate engraving, an intricate family crest, half-eroded but resolutely surviving amidst the decay. His heart fluttered with cautious hope. This fragile symbol of heritage felt like a key, an anchor to the past that could finally find its voice. The moment unfolded slowly. He bowed his head, eyes closed, whispering words of acknowledgement to generations long silenced. The dog sat patiently, tail wagging softly, an anchor in the storm of emotion swelling within Henry. The woods around them seemed to breathe deeply, the light flickering through the branches casting golden patterns onto the ground, as if blessing the quiet affirmation. Henry reached into his coat and pulled out the tarnished pocket watch, their relic that had been silent for so long, its face cracked but still holding an unyielding pulse. He cradled it in his trembling hands, feeling its weight and the faint, rhythmic ticking. Each beat inside it echoed a message from the pasta, call to remember, forgive, and move forward. In this peaceful moment, Henry's gaze lifted to the brightening sky, a tear slipping down his weathered cheek as warmth blossomed in his chest. The shadows of despair that once consumed him seemed to retreat, replaced by a quiet resolve and unspoken promise that he would reclaim his story, one step at a time. The camera pulled back slowly, the woods glowing with the promise of dawn, a herald of renewal standing on the brink of transformation. Henry's figure became a silhouette of hope against the burgeoning light, a testament that even the deepest wounds could begin to heal with courage, loyalty, and quiet faith. He took a deliberate step forward into the light, into the future, guided by the steady tick of the heirloom and the loyal loyalty of his steadfast canine companion. The scene faded on the sight of him walking resolutely, a path lit by morning's tender promise, quiet revolution of heart and legacy. The ancient woods stretched wide and luminous beneath a sky painted with the hues of dawn, fiery golds and soft pinks melting into a blank canvas of promise. Henry, chest rising with a breath that now tasted of hope and resolve, stood at the clearing's edge, the shadows of the past falling away with each heartbeat. His weathered face, once a mask of despair, was now softened by renewed purpose, eyes gleaming with a quiet strength born from hard-won truth. In his trembling hand, the heirloom pocket watch shimmered, catching the first light of morning, a fragile yet unbreakable symbol of time, legacy, and reconciliation. This relic, long dormant in the shadows of doubt, now vibrated with a steady, reassuring pulse, echoing the beat of a heart reborn. The dog sat loyally at Henry's side, its eyes a mirror of quiet understanding, guardians of secrets long buried beneath layers of fallen leaves and forgotten memories. The canopy above sparkled with early sunlight filtering through bare branches, casting fractured rays of hope across the ground, a mirror of Henry's fractured past giving way to light. He closed his eyes briefly, feeling the warmth seep into his bones, a serene calm washing over the tempest of years of loneliness, grief, and regret. A smile touched his cracked lips, gentle but resolute, a testament that the darkness had fought but could no longer eclipse the dawn. With deliberate grace, Henry raised the pocket watch toward the sky, the intricate engravings dancing in the light. His voice, steady and calm, broke the silence, a declaration to the universe. This time, we start anew. The camera slowly pulled back, framing the tableau against the awakening woods. The landscape shimmered with the golden promise of a new beginning, each leaf and branch whispering the unspoken vow, hope, reconciliation, and the enduring strength of loyalty. Henry took one final look at the woods, his heart at peace, and stepped forward into the dawn, into his future. As he moved, the scene softened into a near-mythic scene of renewal, where darkness retreated beneath the radiant sky, leaving behind only the quiet glow of hope and the steady ticking of destiny's timeless pursuit. The day breaks quietly over the familiar woods, a gentle dawn spreading the golden hues of hope across the landscape Henry had once feared he'd lost forever. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew and the promise of new beginnings. Henry, aged but upright, stands at the edge of a forest clearing, the soft glow illuminating his weathered face and deepening eyes. His hand gently rests on the worn wood of the old pocket watch, its silent ticking a steady beat in the stillness. A soft, steady breathing beside him reveals the loyal dog, now an inseparable part of his healing journey. The animal's warm head rests against Henry's knee, a silent anchor in the quiet dawn of reconciliation. Henry's eyes, once clouded with despair, now shimmer with a cautious light, reflecting on the tumultuous path of his rediscovery. The landscape around them is tranquil, leaves softly falling, a gentle breeze whispering through the trees, and distant birds singing softly, breaking the silence with melody and memory. Henry's gaze drifts to the horizon, where the sun begins to crest, casting a warm, amber glow over the woods, an emblem of acceptance and hope. He takes a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the cold air fill his lungs and fill him with a calm he had long thought unreachable. His fingers tighten around the pocket watch, a symbol of the family legacy he finally understands, not as a chain of burdens but as a testament to resilience and love. A faint smile forms as he acknowledges the journey, the pain, the loss, and now, the peace. The camera gently pulls back, framing Henry and his faithful companion against the vast, awakening landscape. The soft orchestral score rises subtly, underscoring the depth of the momentous pause where past and present lean into each other in silent harmony. Henry's eyes close briefly, and in that quiet, sacred space, a profound sense of gratitude blooms. The ancient woods, once a symbol of mystery and despair, now stand as a testament to his transformation, whispering silently of forgiving losses, embracing change, and trusting love's enduring power. The scene lingers on the duo, a quiet emblem of reconciliation, as the sunlight bathes the earth in gentle glow. The woods, the watch, and the loyal dog, each a part of his past, present, and future, stand united under the soft light, an everlasting promise of hope's gentle dawn. The evening sun dipped low behind the trees, casting a warm, amber glow that seeped into the quiet woods. Henry stood still on the clearing's edge, the old heirloom pocket watch resting softly in his palm, its delicate surface catching the dying light. The bonds that once held him captive in frustration and grief had begun to dissolve, replaced by a gentle, slow acceptance. The weight of the watch symbolized not just time lost but also time reclaimed. His eyes, once clouded with sadness, shimmered with a new clarity, reflecting the peaceful harmony of the landscape. The dog sat faithfully beside him, its presence a steadfast reminder that loyalty and love could heal even the deepest wounds. The towering woods around them, the very place of mystery and solitude, now echoed with a quiet warmth, as if acknowledging his transformation. Henry's hand tightened gently around the watch, feeling the faint ticking beneath his fingertips steady, persistent like his heartbeat now aligned with hope. The distant horizon glowed with a last burst of sunlight, painting the sky with soft pinks and golds, a testament to seasons ending and beginnings emerging. He looked at the ancient trees sheltering him and felt a sense of release, on understanding that forgiving himself, letting go of the guilt, and embracing the past's lessons was key to moving forward. The scars of betrayal, pain, and loneliness had not vanished, but their sting was dulled by compassion and newfound purpose. Henry knelt slowly, cherishing the moment of stillness. The wind brushed gently past, whispering tales of resilience and love through the leaves. The camera circled, capturing his weathered face illuminated by flickering twilight, a portrait of quiet strength and renewed hope. In that sacred silence, he pressed the watch close to his heart, a silent vow to honor the past without letting it define his future. The woods stretched wide and open, yet contained within them a universe of healing, a space where time, memory, and forgiveness intertwined. As the evening darkened, Henry slowly rose, his silhouette a steadfast emblem against the fading light. The dog trotted forward, tail wagging softly. Together, they moved deeper into the woods, an unspoken journey into peace, trust, and the quiet dawn of a new chapter. The golden hues of sunset spilled across the forest canopy, faintly illuminating the path Henry and his faithful dog had traveled many times before. Now, atop a gentle hill, Henry paused and looked out over the woods that had held his deepest secrets and his renewed hope. The air was thick with a calming silence, broken only by the soft rustling of leaves and the gentle breathing of his loyal companion at his side. Henry's hand reached for the heirloom pocket watch, its surface catching the dying light, its gentle tick now synchronized with the steady thrum of his heart. The generations of his ancestors whispered in the rustling trees, stories of hardship, resilience, and love now woven into the fabric of his soul. Every scar in his weathered face carried a story, every tremor in his hands a testament to battles fought within. He lifted the watch close, feeling the fragile weight of time, its silent pulse anchoring him to this moment of peace, a culmination of pain and healing. Around him, the woods stood silent but alive, their shadows stretching into eternity, whispering of a new dawn. The distant horizon glowed with soft amber, heralding the promise of tomorrow, unburdened by guilt or sorrow. Henry's eyes slowly closed, the gentle wind caressing his silver beard, as the ache of solitude softened into acceptance. His mind drifted to the loyal dog, its unwavering gaze a mirror of quiet forgiveness and steadfast loyalty, the purest symbol of unexpected friendship that had reignited his faith in love and family. In that tranquil silence, the woods seemed to cradle him in a shield of serenity, a gentle reminder that true peace is born from embracing both life's sorrows and its joys. The camera pulled back slowly, capturing his solitary figure framed against the expansive, awakening horizon. The fading light and whispering leaves painted a sacred landscape, a tableau of quiet victory and the sacred stillness of surrendered fears. The scene lingered, an echo of legacy, loyalty, and hope, as Henry and his dog remained rooted in the moment, the last light casting an everlasting glow, an emblem of all that had been lost and everything that was finally found. Ever had a pet lead you to something unexpected? Share your experience below.